Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C., 1964 to 1969, was more than just a sitcom. It was a heartfelt blend of comedy and camaraderie that brought to life the military adventures of its beloved characters. With its charming humor and unforgettable cast, the show became a cherished classic, leaving an indelible mark on audiences. However, behind the laughter and light-hearted moments, the real lives of its actors were often filled with pain, loss, and unimaginable tragedy. From battles with illness to sudden, shocking accidents, many of the show's stars faced heartbreaking struggles that starkly contrasted with their on-screen personas. Some endured personal hardships in silence, while others met tragic and untimely ends, far removed from the joyous world they once brought to life on television. Join us as we uncover the real-life stories behind the cast of Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. Beyond the laughter and the nostalgic memories, their journeys took heartbreaking turns that few fans ever truly knew about. Jim Nabors, born in 1930, was best known as the lovable, naive, and good-natured Private Gomer Pyle. His breakout role in the Andy Griffith Show led to the spin-off Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C., where his childlike innocence and unwavering optimism made him a beloved figure in American television. But behind his ever-present smile and signature golly catchphrase was a man who lived a life of quiet solitude. Raised in Sylacauga, Alabama, Nabors was an introverted boy who found solace in singing. His rich baritone voice became his second career, leading to a successful music career with multiple gold and platinum records. However, the Hollywood of his era was not kind to those who strayed from its rigid expectations, and Jim was forced to keep much of his personal life a secret. For decades, he lived in quiet companionship with his longtime partner, Stan Cadwallader, though they only made their union official in 2013 when same-sex marriage was legalized. In his later years, Nabors suffered from numerous health issues, including a life-threatening hepatitis B infection that he contracted after a routine surgery in the 1990s. The illness severely damaged his liver, and despite receiving a transplant, his health continued to decline. On November 30th, 2017, he passed away at his home in Honolulu, Hawaii, far from the Hollywood limelight that had once adored him. His death marked the end of an era, leaving behind a legacy of laughter and song, but also a life filled with struggles, loneliness, and the need to conceal his true self for much of his time in the public eye. Alan Melvin, born in 1923, was a familiar face to television audiences, his deep, gravelly voice and comedic timing making him an unforgettable presence as Sergeant Charlie Hacker, the rival of Sergeant Carter. He had the gift of comedy, an effortless ability to bring laughter with just a glance or a well-timed quip. Beyond Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C., he became a staple in classic sitcoms, from The Phil Silvers Show to The Brady Bunch, where he played Sam the Butcher. But like so many comedic actors, his personal life was far from the laughter he inspired. While he was married to Amalia Melvin for over 60 years, his career frustrations were a weight he carried privately. As time went on and roles became scarce, the industry moved on, leaving him with only memories of his past glories. He spent his final years away from the spotlight, battling cancer in silence. On January 17, 2008, at the age of 84, Alan Melvin passed away in Los Angeles, far from the television screens that once welcomed him into millions of homes. His voice, once so full of life and humor, was silenced, and another piece of television history faded away, forgotten by many but cherished by those who grew up watching him. Frank Sutton, born in 1923, was the booming, perpetually exasperated Sergeant Vince Carter, whose constant shouting at Gomer Pyle became a signature of Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. Despite his tough and gruff demeanor on screen, Sutton's real-life story was one of ambition, heartbreak, and an untimely end. Born in Clarksville, Tennessee, he developed a passion for acting at an early age and pursued a career in theater before transitioning to film and television. However, his road to success was anything but easy. After being rejected from military service due to a medical condition, he redirected his energy into acting, working tirelessly to prove himself in a competitive industry. Though he found success, he also faced the harsh reality of typecasting. His role as Sergeant Carter became so iconic that it overshadowed his other work, limiting his opportunities. Away from the set, Sutton was a devoted family man, married to writer Toby Igler, with whom he had 2 children. However, the pressures of Hollywood and his own personal struggles weighed heavily on him. On June 28, 1974, at the age of 50, Sutton was preparing to take the stage for a theater performance in Louisiana when he suddenly collapsed from a massive heart attack. Despite immediate efforts to revive him, he passed away before he could deliver his final performance. There was no grand farewell, no cinematic ending, just a quiet, tragic moment that stole away a man who had dedicated his life to entertaining others. His passing was a devastating loss to those who knew him, and a harsh reminder that even the loudest, most commanding voices can be silenced in an instant. William Christopher, born in 1932, was best known to the world as Father Mulcahy on MASH *, but before that, he had a small recurring role on Gomer Pyle. U.S.M.C. as Lester Hummel, a well-meaning but often exasperated Marine. He had a gentle face and a quiet demeanor that made him a perfect fit for playing kind, soft-spoken characters. Off-screen, Christopher's life was marked by deep devotion to his work, to his family, and to his son, Ned, who was diagnosed with autism. He and his wife, Barbara, spent much of their lives advocating for autism awareness, but the burden of caring for a child with special needs in an era when understanding was minimal was an emotional struggle. Though his career brought him recognition, it never quite gave him the sense of fulfillment he sought, and he often battled with the knowledge that Hollywood only saw him as a character actor, never a leading man. As he aged, health problems crept in, and the body that had once carried so much kindness began to fail him. In December 2016, at the age of 84, he succumbed to small cell carcinoma, passing away in his home with his wife by his side. The world barely noticed, but for those who remembered him, his loss was like the quiet extinguishing of a candle, gentle, understated, and full of sorrow. Roy Stewart, born in 1927, was the steady and dependable Corporal Boyle in Gomer Pyle. U.S.M.C., often serving as the middle ground between the naive Gomer and the perpetually exasperated Sergeant Carter. Though his role was meant to be secondary, his warm presence and effortless charm made him a fan favorite. But outside the world of television, Roy struggled with the fleeting nature of fame. He had trained at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and worked in theater before landing his role on Gomer Pyle. U.S.M.C., yet despite his talent, Hollywood had little room for him once the show ended. He took on occasional television roles in series like Bewitched and Mission Impossible, but he never found another role that defined him the way Corporal Boyle had. As the years went by, the phone rang less and less. Though he remained active in the industry, even doing voice work and commercials, his later years were marked by solitude. He never married, never had children, and as he aged, the spotlight faded further away. On Christmas Day in 2005, he passed away at the age of 78, alone in Los Angeles. His death, from cancer, went largely unnoticed, a painful contrast to the bright laughter he once brought to so many. Elizabeth McCrae, born in 1936, brought a sweetness and innocence to the role of Lewin Povey, the Southern belle who captured Gomer Pyle's heart. With her soft accent and gentle charm, she embodied the idealized girlfriend, loyal, patient, endlessly loving. But in reality, life rarely mimicked television romance. Though McCrae was a talented actress who appeared in shows like Gunsmoke and General Hospital, she never reached the level of stardom she deserved. Hollywood was unkind to women who aged out of ingenue roles, and as the years went by, the offers slowed to a trickle. Behind the camera, she faced heartbreak and loss, struggling with the reality of an industry that moved on without looking back. While she is still alive today, time has distanced her from the world that once celebrated her, leaving her as a forgotten relic of a golden era. The echoes of Lewin Povey's laughter still exist in reruns, but the actress who brought her to life has faded into the quiet corners of history, a reminder that fame is fleeting and the past is often kinder than the present. Born on July 15, 1910, in the bustling city of Cleveland, Ohio, Ken Lynch carved a niche as the quintessential tough-as-nails lawman, embodying roles like the steadfast FBI agent Johnson in Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. His voice first resonated over radio waves, portraying characters such as the gargoyle in The Bishop and the Gargoyle. Transitioning seamlessly to the silver screen, Lynch became a familiar face in over 180 productions, often donning the badge of authority. Despite a career portraying stalwart figures, the unpredictability of acting led him to seek stability in floriculture, opening a flower shop in North Hollywood. Amidst the delicate petals, perhaps he found a contrast to the hardened personas he so often depicted. The final act of his life concluded on February 13, 1990, in Burbank, California, as a viral illness claimed the man whose presence had been a cornerstone of classic American television. In the sunlit days of November 14, 1926, in the quiet town of Jamestown, North Dakota, Tom Hatton entered a world that would later know him as the affable Captain Murdoch on Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. His journey led him through the tumult of World War II, serving in the U.S. Navy, and onto the stages of the Pasadena Playhouse, where he honed his craft. Beyond the barracks of Gomer Pyle, Hatton became a cherished figure in Los Angeles households, hosting the Popeye Show and Family Film Festival on KTLA. Yet, behind the camera's glow, his heart found solace in the enduring companionship of costume and set designer Peter Menefee, a partnership that spanned over 5 decades. The curtain fell on Hatton's vibrant life on March 16, 2019, in California, leaving behind a legacy interwoven with the golden threads of Ted Bessel, born in 1935, was a rising star when he appeared on Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. as both Frankie and Jim Purcell. Handsome and talented, he had a boyish charm that made him a natural fit for light-hearted television. But Ted wanted more. He longed to be taken seriously as an actor, and despite his later success as Donald Hollinger on That Girl, he felt trapped by the sitcom world. No matter how hard he tried, he was always seen as the charming boyfriend, never the leading man of a dramatic film. Behind the laughter and applause, there was a man who struggled with frustration, knowing he had so much more to give. As the years passed, he transitioned to directing, hoping to find fulfillment behind the camera, but fate had other plans. On October 6, 1996, at just 61 years old, Ted Bessel suffered a sudden and fatal aortic aneurysm. One moment, he was alive, full of dreams yet to be realized. The next, he was gone. His death was a cruel reminder of life's unpredictability, and the Hollywood he had fought so hard to impress barely paused to mourn him. Barbara Stewart, born in 1930, played the bubbly and beautiful Bunny Wilson, a recurring love interest on Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. She was glamorous, charming, and full of life on screen, but behind the scenes, her story was one of quiet struggles and heartbreak. A talented actress, she had a career that spanned several decades, appearing in classics such as Perry Mason, The Twilight Zone, and The Dick Van Dyke Show. However, despite her impressive resume, she never quite reached the level of stardom she had dreamed of. In her personal life, Barbara was married to comedian Dick Gautier, but their relationship, like so many Hollywood unions, was fraught with tensions and ultimately ended in divorce. She never remarried, and though she continued acting well into her later years, she lived much of her life in the shadow of what could have been. The pain of aging in an industry that values youth and beauty was something she faced alone. In 2011, at the age of 81, she passed away quietly in St. George, Utah. The world had long since moved on from her days as Bunny Wilson, and her passing was a whisper in the vast expanse of Hollywood history. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C., and who do you remember the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to watch the latest videos.